Hello everybody, welcome to the Florida Physique Report, episode number 20. Happy New Year. This is our first show of 2015. We are broadcasting live from the Powerhouse Gym in downtown Tampa, Florida. And on today's show, we are going to have an interview with IFBB pro bodybuilder Jose Raymond, the Boston Mass. He's one of the top 212 competitors in the world. And Jose has been a good friend of mine for many years. And he is going to be the guest poser at my show that I'm promoting this year on May 30th, 2015. It's going to be NPC Natural Suncoast Classic. This will be our second year promoting it in Tampa, Florida. And Jose Raymond is going to be our special guest poser. We're also going to have Santiago Aragon, who is a new IFBB pro right from the Florida area. He took first place in the welterweight class at the NPC Nationals. Santiago is also going to be our guest poser. And we are giving out a special Lifetime Achievement Award to Annabelle Lopez. For those of you who don't know Annabelle, he was one of the top bodybuilders in the 1970s. He competed in the AAU, the WBBG. I think he's the Pro Mr. America winner. And Annabelle is a lifetime drug-free competitor, and he competed obviously in contests where there were other bodybuilders who were using drugs. So Annabelle is going to get our Lifetime Natural Bodybuilder Lifetime Achievement Award, so we're very proud about that. But we're going to have an interesting conversation today with Jose Raymond, the Boston Mass, one of the top 212 bodybuilders in the world. I also want to mention we got training videos coming up here on FloridaPhysique.com. Of course, this is the off-season for the bodybuilding. The contest season starts in March. So in the next couple months, we're going to have a lot of training videos featured on FloridaPhysique.com. We're going to have training videos from competitors in the Florida area who are getting ready for contests, Florida bodybuilders who are in the off-season training. We're going to have different training tips from the Florida bodybuilders on what they do to improve their physiques. So look for that on FloridaPhysique.com every week. We're going to have Training Tip Tuesday. So every Tuesday we're going to have a training video up here on FloridaPhysique.com. Also, if you haven't checked out our new Bodybuilding Legends show, it's one of our most popular shows here on FloridaPhysique.com. So far, we've interviewed Chris Cormier, who was one of the top bodybuilders in the 1990s. And then last week, we interviewed Bill Grant, who was one of the top bodybuilders from the 1970s. On our next show, which should be coming up early next week, we've got Mike Katz, who was one of the bodybuilders featured in the movie Pumping Iron, of course. He was also featured in the book Pumping Iron. And he was one of the top bodybuilders from the 1970s. He won the 1970 IFBB Mr. America contest, as well as the 1972 Mr. World contest. Mike's going to talk about his experience filming the movie Pumping Iron and what he really thought about that movie. He's also going to talk about his rivalry with Ken Waller. And finally, we talked to him about what really happened with that t-shirt scene in the movie Pumping Iron. So that should be interesting. So check out the Bodybuilding Legends show, which will be coming up again in a couple days or early next week on the Bodybuilding Legends show right here at FloridaPhysique.com. All right, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Jose Raymond right here on the Florida Physique Report. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Derek and Eric, DNC Boys Live.
Come check us out, Tampa's leader in sports nutrition since 1996, DNCSupplements.com.
Now serving 2 locations, DNC Supplements 54 in Lana Lakes.
All right, welcome back to the Florida Physique Report, and my special guest today, calling in from Boston, Massachusetts, is the Boston Mass himself, Jose Raymond. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How you doing?
Good. I was just talking in the intro about how you're going to be guest posing at my show on May 30th out here in Tampa, and we look forward to having you at the NPC Natural Suncoast. And I don't think you've been out here in Tampa for a while, right? You've never guest posed in Tampa, have you, Jose?
No, I haven't been down in a couple of years. Probably since I won the Tampa Pro.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
2010.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow, so it'll be like 4 years since you've been here.
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking
I'm
forward.
excited.
I know. We're looking forward to having you.
It's one of the greatest gyms in the country.
Yeah, the Powerhouse Gym. I know.
Yeah. And we got my boy Rick Schaff down there.
Yep.
So I'm sure I'll see him plenty.
And we got another young guy guest posing with you. His name's Santiago Aragon. He just won the welterweights at the Nationals a couple months ago, and we just did an interview with him on the show, and he said he's real excited to be guest posing with you because you're one of the guys he looks up to.
Yeah, I saw him. We actually messaged online talking about guest posing together and stuff. And I saw him leading up. I called it about 2 months before the Nationals that he was going to win.
Yeah.
He looked unbelievable. He had a different look to him months leading into the show. He was shredded.
Yeah.
And you could tell if he nailed this condition, which he was gonna, he would win it easily, which he did.
Yeah, and you would appreciate this too, Jose. He was a great poser, man. He was like a classical poser. He did a lot of like Lee Labrada type poses, Bob Paris poses. He was the only guy the whole night that really had that kind of routine, you know?
Yeah, he looked it. I saw a lot of the pictures. He looked great.
Yeah. And he was really confident too. You could see, you know, he was like ready to win. You know, he's the one guy. He came on stage and you could tell mentally he was ready. You know. Yeah,
he polished everything from his skin, his conditioning, his color, his haircut. Every last thing matters, you know.
Right.
He was ready to win.
So did you enjoy your holidays?
I did. I had the big 4-0 on December 29th.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. You know, and I feel like $1 million. I feel like I'm 25. You know, as long as you're taking care of yourself. You know, in my later years now, I've been keeping my weight down. I used to blow up as heavy as I could, and you know that does me no good at this point because I got to make a weight class, and you know, doing so has made me feel so much better.
Yeah. What'd you do to celebrate your 40th birthday?
Actually, it's funny. My girlfriend had a surprise 40th for me.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah, I had no clue. Usually you catch on to something, but I showed up. We had a local sushi restaurant, and there was about 25 of my closest friends there, and it was pretty funny.
Cool.
She made a cake with my silhouette on it, and it was a high-protein, low-carb cake. It was awesome.
It was really a low-carb cake, really?
Yeah, it was. It was made from black beans or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was delicious and made with like Truvia. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about the Olympia last year. I think that was probably it was one of the best shows conditions I ever saw you in. What was your preparation leading up to that show? What did you do differently? Because you were really full and you were rock hard. And I know you were sort of disappointed with the Arnold last year. And I know you're doing the Arnold coming up in a couple weeks, couple months. So what did you do different from the Arnold to the Olympia where you made such dramatic improvements?
Well, we totally revamped everything. In years past, you know, because I don't have the most aesthetically pleasing physique, we always thought and listened to everyone else. You know, I'd hear Sean Ray saying, "Oh, he's competing too heavy." You know, people saying I compete too heavy. So I figured, you know, around 204, 205, if I came in there at my height, that's still big, you know, it'd be big enough. But really, the truth of the matter is my body wants to be around 210.
Yeah.
And those 5 pounds made a huge difference. So leading into the Olympia, I backed off the cardio. Anytime my weight would drop, I would have a high carb day and get my weight back up, do no cardio, and then just kind of glide into the show as opposed to every day trying to get harder and harder and harder. What happens, I come in flatter and don't look as hard.
Right.
So I came into the Olympia full blown and it made me look harder than I did, you know, maybe even at a lower body fat.
Right.
205 at the Arnold, I was absolutely peeled. Like, my skin was gone. But because I wasn't as full, I didn't look as hard. I just didn't have the same, you know, explosive look to me.
Yeah. So,
you know, we decided we're going to come in. Anytime my weight dropped, we'd come right back up. And I ended up weighing in at like 211 and a half. And was probably on stage at 209, 210. And that was a rock solid 210, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you on when you were on RX Muscle a month or so ago. And where did you think you should have placed at that Olympia, Jose?
You know, it doesn't matter what I think. I go to win. And Eduardo, he and I have been going back and forth every year now. You can't deny his unbelievable condition. It's just that's a genetic thing. The way he looks is just completely freakish. You can't diet for that.
Right.
But, like anyone, he has his weaknesses. I think I'm more complete than him, top to bottom. I think my conditioning was pretty wild, too. And symmetrically, I think I was more symmetrical. Front to back, top to bottom, side to side. So you could argue that I should have beaten him again. I beat him the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Flex, I don't think was 100%. I think he's too worried about weight and whatnot as well. I'll go on record and say I stand right next to the scale when he weighs in. He's never heavier than me. And people are like, oh, no, he's too much trouble making weight. He's still got a few pounds to play with. And, I think he could have been drier. And he left the door open. I know he was having some allergy issues with some of the foods he was eating. And we were talking backstage, and he's like, oh, I'm dying. I'm cramping. I'm allergic to rice. I'm like, dude, you're carbing up on rice cakes. He's like, I know. I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So I think, you could make an argument that I could have beaten both of those guys.
Yeah.
But, being devil's advocate, you can make an argument that they both beat me. And listen, I'm top 3 in the world. I'm not going to cry about it. It's and I know it wasn't a blowout. So that's what's important to me is that, both me and Eduardo served notice that Flex isn't untouchable like everyone thinks.
Yeah.
It was very close. And even if he had straight ones, each one of those judges might have been saying, they were close and ended up going with them, but it was a lot closer than maybe the scores show.
Yeah, right.
So I'm happy. I'm pleased. I would have been happier to win. My wallet would have been happier, but it is what it is. And I know that at my best, and I'm not just talking shit, I'm getting better. At 40 years old, I will be better. And, Flex better be better.
Yeah.
And everyone else better be better. Or I can very well take it any show in the 212 division.
And then I think, Jose, don't you agree that, like with any Mr. Olympia, whether it's 212 or the Open Mr. Olympia, in order to beat the champ, you sort of got to like beat him almost a couple of years in a row, like Phil Heath did with Jay Cutler. Phil was second to Jay the 1 year before he actually won, and a lot of people were saying he should have won. And then the next year he came in great again, and Jay was a little bit off or a little bit less, and then he did beat him. So it's almost like in order to beat the champ, you got to show that kind of conditioning a couple of years in a row and really, to really push him. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the case. And you got to knock out the champ. You can't just edge him. And, I love Flex, and I think he's one of the greatest bodybuilders ever in any division just because he's so consistently awesome. He's a showman. He's a professional. He's a gentleman. So you can't argue with the kid winning. You just can't, I was happy for him. Of course I want to beat him, but it is what it is. He's the best for a reason. And that doesn't mean I don't think I can beat him. I've beaten him before, and I think I got the firepower to beat him again.
Yeah.
It's just it's just perfect circumstances. And maybe this year, due to the fact that I did chase him all over the world after the Olympia. I went from Vegas to Korea to Prague, and I was right up his ass the entire time. And one could argue I could have beaten him in Prague or Korea.
Yeah.
So, it's been a great rivalry for over 6 years now. My first time, at my first year in 2009, he won the Atlantic City Pro. Same stuff. Everyone was crying like, that I could have beat him, or I should have beat him. This is nothing new to me. This has been going on since I started pro bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It makes it exciting. It makes me want to, Flex is the #1 reason that I get up in the morning. You know,
Right.
I get up and stomp on the step mill, and I eat clean. I train like a beast because I want to beat him.
Now, is he doing the Arnold in 8 weeks?
He's not.
Okay.
No. So
how about Eduardo? Is Eduardo doing it?
Eduardo's doing it. Eduardo, me, Aaron Clark, Hide, Charles Dixon, Marco Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10 of us. It's going to be a great show. Any way you slice it.
Yeah.
I think it makes it pretty exciting that Flex isn't doing it because it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and obviously Eduardo's the favorite, or even I'm the favorite. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the favorite. But he just beat me, so I gotta come back and beat him again.
Yeah. What would you say if you won the show in 8 weeks at the Arnold? What would you say to Arnold when he comes up to you and interviews you?
What would I say? I have it already planned out. He, you know. I don't know if you remember, but back in 1990,
yeah, I remember that story. Yeah, tell that story again for anybody.
I was doing the Muscle Mania back then, 98. I had just competed. I placed like 5th in the lightweight class.
Mm-hmm.
Next morning, my brother had a photo shoot, and nobody woke me up. I wanted to go with him, you know. I woke up and the place was empty, so I was pissed, and I went for a jog and went down to the omelet parlor in Venice or Santa Monica, where the hell it is. I walked. It was a couple miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I ate breakfast by myself. I was walking home on the bike path. And it was around Thanksgiving. And it was like 75 degrees. To a Boston boy, that's hot as hell.
You're right.
So I had my shirt off. And then I heard Arnold's voice. And I knew it immediately. He was on his bike, rode by me, and he's like, looking good. And I looked up, and sure enough, it was him and his wife and the kids. And they just drove by, and I was like giddy. I'm like, oh my God. This is crazy. And about 5 minutes later, I see him coming back to me. He's on his bike, and he pulled over and reached out his hand, shook my hand. He's like, how you doing? What are you doing here? You look fantastic.
And you had your shirt off at this point, right, Jose?
Yeah, yeah. And I'll never forget it. I had a water bottle, and he's like, give me a bicep. And I held one arm up like this. He's like, no, let me hold your water. Give me front double bicep. And so I started posing for him. And he was going nuts. You look fantastic. Turn around. Let me see your back. And it went on what seemed like 20 minutes. It was probably 10 minutes. And I was posing harder than I ever did in my life. And he's poking me and jabbing me, lifting my elbows up, telling me to flex my calves, my abs. And it was the most amazing, amazing thing. And it was exactly what I needed at that time. I was like 22 years old, and I was bummed. I'm like, this bodybuilding shit's for the birds, you know. I just came all the way out to California. I placed 5th, and, you know, wasn't for me. But Arnold himself told me, you know, you look amazing. You're going to be great. Keep it up, you know. And I was like, over the moon, you know. I'm like, this is... If Arnold thinks I can do it, I'm going to stick with it.
And when he was doing this, there was a crowd of people watching you too, right?
Oh, yeah. There was, and this was before cell phone cameras or anything.
Right.
So I couldn't be like, hey, you know, someone take a picture, you know?
Right.
And I as fast as it happened, it dispersed, and I ran home to tell my brother, and you remember Jolt, right?
Yeah.
Jolt was like, let's go find him. Let's go. We'll take pictures with him. And I'm like, I don't know where the hell he is. What do you mean?
He's back home now.
Yeah, it was amazing. But I would tell, you know, Arnold, you know, in a brief way, that story. That
would be great. You got to tell him that story.
Yeah, that, you know, when I was down in the dumps and feeling like shit, he personally, you know, some people say, yeah, Arnold inspired me or motivated me. Well, I would actually mean it because, you know, literally.
Right.
That he picked me up when I was down that one day.
Oh, man, that'd be great if you got to tell that story.
The very next year, I came back and I won that show. I won the overall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on ESPN. It was huge. It was awesome. And a few months later, I went and won the USA's.
Wow.
And then I just started racking up wins. The next year, I won the Nationals.
Wow. And
just kept going and going from there.
Jose, when did you start training? Because you started really young, right?
Yeah, I started like consistently training around 10 years old.
Wow.
because my brother is almost 6 years older than me. So when he started, I started. Whatever he did, I wanted to do. So he was already, training for football and trying to get stronger, and that's exactly what I did. I followed him around and did everything with him.
Now, was Tito competing back then at like 16?
No, he didn't start until after he graduated high school.
Oh, okay.
He went to Springfield College, and Jeff King was there.
Yeah.
And Jeff King told him he should do it, and he wrote out a diet for him, and he went and did it, and the rest is history,
Yeah. How did you feel about your brother competing? Did you see him in his first show?
Yeah. He was unbelievable. You know, he had a physique that was beyond his years at 18 years old.
Right.
Everyone was accusing him of juicing, He was like 170 pounds, 5'8", 170, Give me a break. He was just had an unbelievable skin tone and full muscles. He just looked a lot bigger than he was. And he was awesome. That's what I wanted. When people say, oh, when I was younger, I wanted to be Sean Ray, I wanted to be Flex Wheeler. No, I wanted to be my brother,
Yeah.
That was the only physique I could relate to, that I wanted to emulate.
But you and him have sort of different physiques, right? He's a little taller and symmetrical, and you were more thicker, right?
Yeah, he's a lot taller. He's 4 inches taller than me.
Okay.
And very different. He's just had longer arms, just longer muscle bellies, and I was always the shorter, heavier one. I was always kind of chubby my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So in the off season, that's why you can see me within 3 days after a show, I look like a different person.
Yeah, and Tito was more skinny, right, when he started.
Yeah, his weight never fluctuated.
Yeah,
he'd be 176 for the show, and he'd walk around at 185 all year round.
Yeah, right.
So maybe 10 pounds.
When did you do your first show then? How old were you?
I was 18. I did the New England. My brother was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, there was only one show in New England. It was, that was the big daddy of them all. And the place was packed. And we had like 15 teenagers in the teen division. That was back when teens used to compete.
Yeah, I know.
We had a heavyweight class and a lightweight class.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning the overall. But, I wasn't really too keen on putting on a thong and getting on stage,
Right.
My brother, I had been training with him every day, and I started eating cleaner with him because he was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And probably around 6 weeks out, he's like, you got to do this show with me. And I'm like, whatever. And so I stuck to the diet. I went and I won, and it was so exciting,
Yeah.
Place was packed. And
so you won the overall on your first show.
Yeah. And it was just so cool. So I kind of found my niche and what I wanted to do, and I didn't have a quarterback, I didn't have a coach, I didn't have no one else to rely on. It was just me.
Yeah.
And I knew I was good at it. I knew that I had the genetics to do well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that made a lot of sense to me. I played all the other sports and played football in college and everything, but there's other people you rely on. With bodybuilding, it's you and only you.
Now, was there ever any doubt? I mean, even though you won your first show and I'm sure you looked great as a teenager, did you ever have any doubts about like being able to go all the way with it? Like you were talking about that muscle mania and you only got 5th place.
Yeah, the funny thing is if I was competing, I wanted to win.
Yeah.
For sure. But because the effort and the time, the sacrifice you put into getting in shape. But my goal was never to be a pro bodybuilder. I thought that was completely unrealistic, because back then we didn't have a lighter class. We didn't have a 202, 212 class, whatever. Right. And it wasn't realistic for me to stand next to Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman. So I didn't even think about it. I just wanted to win my class. I wanted to be the best in my weight division that I could be. And that's why the Team Universe was so important to me, was because that gave me a chance, if I won, to go to the World Championships and prove that I was or could be the best in the world in my weight division.
Right.
Not a pro bodybuilder, just the best in my division.
Yeah.
That's all I really wanted. And the pro stuff just kind of happened by accident.
Yeah. Speaking of the Team Universe, I remember I saw you that one year and it was a big showdown between you and Chris Faldo. And I thought you were actually a little bit more ripped than him, and he beat you probably by 1 point.
Yeah.
He was a great bodybuilder, huh?
He was unbelievable. And you know what? It's an honor. It's an honor for me to be forever linked to him because of that day. You know, everyone remembers that because it was such a battle. I mean, people forget that. What did Kai Green win that show? Who won that? It was a big show.
I think it might have been Skip LaCour or Jeff Willett.
Yeah. But you know, the talk of the show was me and Chris.
Yeah.
You know, and pound for pound, everything considered, he's probably my favorite bodybuilder of all time.
Mm-hmm.
No, not only because he's a friend, but just because, you know, even just recently, like 2 years ago, he guest posed at the Ironman Naturally.
Yeah, in California.
And he looked like he could have stepped on a 212 stage and very well. I mean, he takes himself very seriously and takes his job and loves bodybuilding as much as anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I respect that, man. That's incredible. The condition, he had costumes. He came and put on a routine that he worked on for hours and hours. You know, the guy's amazing.
And you said that he sort of taught you how to pump up, right? Because when he used to go into backstage, he used to like flex really hard, and that's how he got pumped up.
Yeah. You know, I'd be there picking up weights and, you know, lifting like crazy, and he's laughing at me. I'm like, what are you laughing at? You know, and I just watched him, and he would just hit a pose and squeeze and hold it till he turned purple, and he was shivering and shaking. You could see everything, all the lines just start popping out of him, and he was squeezing water out of the muscle, and it was getting fuller and fuller and harder by the minute just by squeezing.
Yeah.
So, that, you know, I started doing that, and I'm like, this makes so much more sense than lifting crazy weights. I mean, I'll pick up some weights just to get the blood moving, but the most important thing is posing, because that's what you're going to be doing on stage.
Right.
And it made perfect sense, you know.
So besides,
Chris is unbelievable. You know, he was such even to this day, he's been such an influence on my career. You know, still keeping tabs on me and believing in me, and you know, I'll forever be grateful for him.
Yeah. So besides the Team Universe, what was the other national level shows you did? What was the first one you did besides the Team Universe?
The USA's.
Okay.
That was in 2000 when Bob Ciccarello won the overall.
And Tito was in that too, right?
Yeah. I won the lightweights.
Okay.
And my brother was second in the
middleweights, right?
The middleweights to who was the Asian kid?
Yeah. It wasn't Coach Shandeka, was it?
No.
I remember what you're talking about. I can't think of his name either.
He actually just passed away last year.
Yeah, right.
He lived in like Bakersfield, California or something.
Yeah.
It was very sad. But he was second in the middleweights. And you know, it's funny. I won both the USA's and the Nationals before I was able to win a Team Universe.
Really?
That you know, that speaks volumes for the depth of the Team Universe back in those days.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy back in those days.
It was wild. You know, my class was so deep with me, Tricky Jackson, Chris Faldo, Derek Farnsworth, Steve Holland.
Right.
You know, the list goes on. It was crazy, you know? I mean, that show was way tougher than the Nationals or USA's back then.
Wow. So how many national level titles did you have then? Because I remember you were in different weight classes. You were like, would you ever bantamweight, or would you just start out with lightweight?
No, I was a lightweight. Couldn't be a bantam.
Yeah.
My bones weigh 143 pounds.
So you were like a lightweight and then welterweight and middleweight. You won your class in all those, right, at national level shows? Yeah.
I won eight national titles.
Wow, 8 national titles. That's crazy.
Yeah. I won 3 USA's, 3 nationals, and 2 Team Universe.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe you were one of the inspirations for starting that 212 class, huh? Or 202 it was at first? Yeah,
I would like to think so, because you know, I kept winning pro cards.
Yeah.
And not taking them.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of buzz. Why the hell's Jose not taking his card?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's nowhere for me to compete. And you know, not just me, but there were a lot of great bodybuilders that weren't competing. because there wasn't really a stage for them to compete on.
Yeah.
You know, realistically, it's hard, man, to get up every morning early and do your cardio and put in the effort and the sacrifice that you got to do to get in contest shape.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people are like, oh, I do it every day. Yeah, but you're not in contest shape.
Right.
I'm talking high level contest shape. It's a lot. So if I don't think that I can win, I honestly wouldn't be able to stick to it.
Right, right. So what was when did you first do the 202 then? What year was that?
09. So I won the Nationals in 07 in Dallas as a middleweight.
Okay.
And that was the first year that they had it was a 210-pound class.
Oh, okay. Right, I remember that.
And you remember Silvio was winning. He won the Open and the 210 class. So I was like, well, that's at least more realistic. So I said, I'll take it this year. Otherwise, I would still be there trying to win the heavyweight class.
Right.
And I decided to take the card. Less than 2 weeks later, I fell down the stairs and broke my leg.
Wow.
And I had to take all of 08 off because it was a serious break. I had surgery. And
was it your thigh or your calf?
My fibula.
Fibula?
Broke.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had 3 screws put in there.
Wow.
And I tore all the ligaments on top of my foot and stuff.
Holy shit.
And so it took a long time. And not only that, I put on 90 pounds.
Wow,
So
90 pounds?
Yeah, I went in. I weighed 176. And then 4 months later, I was 266.
Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You've never been that heavy before in your life, huh?
No, not then, not since.
Wow.
And
why did you put on so much weight? You were just depressed because it was an injury?
Yeah. You know, and I was immobile. I was in a cast or a walking boot for 4 months.
Wow.
So by the time I got the boot off, I was so heavy. I remember doing cardio. I was walking. There's a lake that's 3.5 miles in my hometown, and I had to stop like 10 times just because my back was hurting so bad.
Wow.
And I had to stretch, and it was horrible. But I had to make a decision: either man up or be a fat ass the rest of my life. So I set a date, and I said my first show will be the New York Pro. I would feel at home there because I had done 7 Team Universes there.
Yeah.
And so I went and did my first New York Pro in May of 09. And I weighed in like 184 pounds. And I got killed. I was, it was a reality slap. You know, that year, I think Kevin English won. David Henry or Mark Dugdale was second.
Mm-hmm.
Henry third. Eduardo fourth. Jason Arndt sixth. What's his name? Fakhri Mubarak was. What's his name? Vinny Galante.
Oh, okay.
Was seventh, and I was eighth or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is just crazy. So I went and did the Dallas Europa. And I think I placed 8th again. And then I cut my hair. I had grown my hair for the previous 2 years. So
yeah, I remember that. It was real long, yeah.
Yeah, I was in a ponytail, and everyone's like, dude, you look stupid. So just out of as like a social experiment,
yeah,
I cut it all off. I went to Atlantic City and placed second to Flex.
You know who else did that? I don't know if you remember. You probably don't remember this. You're too young. But Bob Paris, when he first did the Nationals, the very first Nationals, when Lee Haney won, he already was Mr. California, and he was winning all these shows in Southern California. And he went in the Nationals and got like 3rd place, which was great. But he was mad at himself because he thought he screwed up. So after the show, he shaved his head as a punishment, just like you did. And then the next year he won it. He won it in '83.
Yeah, see, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I went to went straight to the Olympia, which was like 3 weeks later,
mm-hmm.
and I ended up placing 6th there. So I beat like 90% of the people who had beaten me that year.
Right.
And I started hitting my stride from there. And then the following year, I won 2 shows in 8 days.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I won the Tampa, and then flew up and went back to Hartford, Europa, and won that one.
So when I saw you in 2010 at the Tampa, your year before that was your first year competing as a pro.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because you looked great when you won that Tampa show.
Yeah, and I was still holding a little bit of water. I was still figuring it out, and the following week I dropped about 7 pounds and was bone dry, and I ended up beating David Henry that day.
I remember that. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That was a great
And
victory.
that was my show where I was like, I have really arrived. Like, I'm a bona fide threat to win any show I go into. And that was the day that all the confidence, competing and nearly beating Flex in 2009, that was a big boost, But Flex at the time was still very new as well.
Yeah.
That wasn't the Flex you're seeing today.
Right.
But David was a monster.
Yeah.
And he was already winning or placing top 2 in pro shows,
Right,
open
shows.
shows.
Yeah, before they had the weight class.
Right. So I remember weighing in, and Guy Sistanino's sitting there with me, and Guy goes, "Well, this show's over." And I looked at him. I'm like, "Screw you." I'm like, "What? Just because you're afraid of him, I ain't afraid." and sure enough, I went in and beat him.
Yeah.
And I looked at Guy like, "Yeah, show's over, isn't it?" It was funny.
Speaking of that, Jose, what do you think? I mean, I know you've had a lot of victories in your career, and you've had a long career and a lot of shows. But what stands out as like some of your best victories?
My best, the most important one to me was the overall win at the Team Universe.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was in 2005.
Okay.
Because I had been trying and trying and trying.
I remember you were in that show a lot.
Yeah, 7 years in a row I did it.
Wow.
And it was just like such a long time. And like I said, I had won the Nationals. I'd won the USAs. And most people would have been fired up to win the Nationals. I was just like, I was glad I got to beat Derek Farnsworth at the Nationals. But it wasn't the same as winning the Team Universe because it meant so much to me. And, that would definitely have to be one of the tops.
Did they go to did you guys go to the Universe that year, or was that because I know a lot of years it was boycotted or canceled?
Yeah. I went to China.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. And
how'd you do there?
I placed 8th.
Yeah. Yeah, the Americans never do good at the
Universe. We never do good because we don't have delegates on the judging panel. And I don't mean that in a that it's political or anything, but in order to even get a call out and to get compared, you have to have someone that knows you and be like, oh, let this guy stand out there.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So, but I did come out of my quarter turns right next to Baito Abaspor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were both welterweights back then.
No kidding. He was a welterweight, huh?
Yeah. And we were right next to each other. I have a bunch of pictures of us together. And Dennis Wolf won the overall that year.
Wow. No shit.
Yeah. And he was unbelievable. He was I think he was 247 back then.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, about 30 pounds smaller than he is now.
Did Balto have those big legs as a welterweight?
He did, especially from the side.
Yeah, the side. His hamstrings look like you're going to touch the floor.
yeah. He was awesome. I think he should have won the show.
Oh,
I think
really?
either him or I should have won the show.
Right.
We were backstage looking at each other, and he looked at me and was like, motioning like it's going to be me and you.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even get called out next to him.
Wow.
But it is what it is. That was a great experience. I got another show that was unbelievable. Pro was very exciting, but it wasn't as exciting as in 2013 when I beat Sammy, because nobody was expecting me to do the show. I wasn't expecting to do the show.
What show was it, Jose?
The New York Pro.
Okay.
I had done the New York Pro 4 years in a row. and I was like, it's just exhausting. I'm like, I want to focus on something else, and I was going to do the Toronto Pro the week later.
Mm-hmm.
And a few things went down where I was supposed to guest pose the weekend of the New York Pro, and then it was like a non-sanctioned event.
Yeah.
So I got a late call that said you can't do it, or you'll be fined or whatever. So Steve Weinberger was gracious enough to let me come in last minute and do the New York Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew.
Yeah.
Until I came out on stage, and never, have I gone on stage and heard the place like erupt. And I walked out on stage. I was like probably 7th or 8th to go out,
mm-hmm.
and the place went wild. And I was so fired up, it gave me goosebumps while I was on stage posing.
Wow.
And
who did you beat at that show?
What's that?
Who did you beat at that show?
Sami Al-Haddad.
Oh, okay, right. I remember. Yeah.
He had beaten me the 2 previous shows prior to that we had faced each other.
Okay.
And he was awesome. But I knew that if I was at my best that I could beat him,
Mm-hmm.
He's like 4 inches taller than me. And, I carry more muscle, And I knew if I got a fair judgment with him that I could beat him. And if I was in shape.
Yeah.
Which I was. And it was just such an exciting experience to kind of come in and shock the place. And,
yeah.
It was a very memorable situation.
What do you think? I know you've traveled all over the world. What are some of your favorite places that you've gone to in all your travels as a pro bodybuilder?
Oh, man. I'd say New Zealand was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful place. Last year I went there. Mo Al-Musawi took real good care of me, took me everywhere and showed me around. And the great thing is that we get to travel. It's rarely is it alone. It's usually groups of us.
Yeah. So
we get to bond and have a lot of fun with people that, we know, but we never really get to know each other the way we do when we're gone for a week together.
Right.
So we had a great time. Me and Evan Centopani did a lot of traveling together there. And we saw a lot of stuff. Back in 98, we went to Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah.
Yeah, me, my brother, his wife Amy, Brian Glenn, remember him?
Yeah, from Chicago.
And Mike D'Angelo. There was a whole crew of us there, and that was a very memorable. And Rick Schaff.
Yeah. We
had a blast.
I missed you by a year because I went the year before.
Yeah. It was crazy. And, the Sharu was pretty wild in India.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was definitely the loudest crowd I've ever been in front of.
Yeah, I heard the crowds are crazy there.
We were in the Gandhi Arena, which holds 38,000 fans.
Wow.
And it's more than 3/4 filled.
Holy crap. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was so loud. I've never, ever experienced something like that.
Wow.
Like the Olympia gets sold out, 11,000 fans?
Yeah.
It was easily twice as many.
Wow.
And way louder. Yeah, because they're just crazy over there. They're very different in the way they behave. They touch you and come up and take 7 or 8 pictures with you.
Yeah.
And if you try to get away, they hold on to your arm. They're very outgoing and crazy about it. So that was pretty wild.
I got another tough question. Out of all the bodybuilders you've seen, whether you competed against them or just seen them, which ones stand out as really blowing your mind?
That I've competed against?
Yeah, or competed against, or maybe just seen them in a gym, or maybe in a pro show or whatever.
Oh man,
maybe someone growing up that really impressed you.
I don't know. I would say probably Kai Green.
Yeah.
Not only his freakish muscle, but his performance. He is a true artist. That's the best way I can describe it. Is it's like he goes somewhere else when he gets on stage.
Yeah.
And although his routines look like they're practiced for hours upon hours, I just think it's something in his head that comes to him sometimes, you know? Man, he the first year I did the Team Universe, I don't know if it was 97 or 98, he did, I saw him and I'd heard all this stuff about him. Like, he was supposed to be my age. We were 20 years old. And we're like, wow. He looked like a fat kid. He had a hockey shirt on. And I'm like, that kid's no big deal. He's a fat kid. And then I saw him on stage, and I was like, oh, my God. He looked like a 30-year-old man and was just crazy. And the performance he did was just something I've never seen.
At the Team Universe, he did a great performance.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just mind-blowing, though, the way he was able to, like I said, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't worried about what anyone thought of him. He was putting on a show, and whether you liked it or not didn't matter. He liked it.
Yeah.
You know? And to be able to watch him metamorphosize into, you know, the 280-pound monster.
Yeah.
And continue the flexibility and the artistry that he displays is pretty admirable, and I respect everything about Kai, you know.
Right.
He's awesome. I never got a chance to see Ronnie Coleman or anything like that. Obviously, I've trained with Jay, and Jay was like a cartoon. I would laugh every time I see him. Like, I'd want to touch his shoulder. Like, dude, shoulder looks like a basketball. Like,
right.
It's just funny. And it went at his peak, how big and wide his shoulders were.
Yeah.
And his calves, and just silly.
Yeah,
you know?
his legs. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So how you feeling now, getting ready for the Arnold? You're only about 8 weeks out. I'm sure your training and diet is in full gear, huh? Everything's
100%. It's great. You know, I got some aches and pains that I'm dealing with, but my training is awesome. I'm strong as ever. And, you know, things are changing every day. I'm waking up harder, drier, fuller every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, I work with Chris Aceto, so...
Right.
You know, I send him pictures every few days, and he's happy. He's liking what's going on. And, you know, the great thing is we're not in panic mode. Last year, I didn't, it was weird I've never gone from the Olympia and then had to rest and then turn around so quick and get ready for a show again.
Right.
So that was a new experience. Where now I kind of knew what I had to do. I didn't let my weight go up. I didn't blow up and get too fat.
Right.
Anytime my weight started climbing, I would eat clean for a few days and come back down and do cardio, whatever I had to do to stay within the ballpark. And so I'm in much a better situation than I was a year ago. And I'm maintaining, you know, I actually used to take months off at a time. So after the Olympia last year, I just stopped training, where this year I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I kept training. I didn't stop anything. So I held on to that muscle. So when I normally stop training, I won't get small, but I'll lose some of that size.
Right.
And I'll spend the first 5 or 6 weeks getting that size back while trying to get in condition.
Yeah, right.
Where this time around, I can just focus on getting in condition because
You kept all the muscle.
Exactly.
Right. And you're with iForce Nutrition now, right, Jose?
I am. iForce.
There you go.
And I'm actually drinking out of their shaker cup.
Oh, yeah, great. And they're treating you good?
Compete. So when people ask me, they're like, do you really drink that stuff? I drink it morning, noon, and night.
Right.
That's what I always have. It's delicious. Good stuff. But
All right,
yeah,
Jose,
with iForce for a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
Been great. You know, I travel the world, man. Been everywhere with them. I spent a month in Australia last year. I've been in Germany, in Poland, and England, and all over the United States, all over Canada. I leave next week for a week in Canada.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, that's not always fun while you're dieting, but
yeah,
the good thing is they understand that I am prepping for the Arnold.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And, you know, I need my food. I need to do what I got to do. And, you know, they're pretty understanding of that. And everything will go smooth.
Yeah. All right, Jose. Well, we wish you the best of luck at the Arnold. I'm hoping you pull off the win and you get to tell Arnold when you met him back in '99.
Yeah, I hope so, too.
And we wish you all the best of luck. And we look forward to seeing you in Tampa, Florida on May 30th for the MPC Natural Sun Coast. I'm sure all your fans out here in Florida will enjoy seeing you, and we'll try and get some workouts in. And we should also mention you're going to be doing a big seminar on the day of the contest in between the morning and night show, and it's going to be broadcast live on the internet. So we'll have all that information
Awesome.
on Florida Physique and also on the contest website. But I think that's going to be a great opportunity to share with your fans all your training and diet tips.
Great. Yeah, I can't wait, John. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
All right, brother. Well, we wish you the best, and keep training hard.
You got it.
All right,
Peace.
Jose.
Thanks.
All right, that's it for the Florida Physique Report, episode number 20. I want to thank our guest, Jose Raymond, for joining us. And we will see you guys in another week or two with Florida Physique Report, episode number 21. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.